Hello, my name's Nicola Lowe. I'm a solicitor and head of the Family Law Department here at Adam Bernard Solicitors. And in today's podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit about finances and the divorce process. I'm also here with my colleague, Olivia Boyd, who's a solicitor in the Family Law team. Olivia, do you want to start us off with some questions that you've got?
Sure. So could you tell us about some of the common hurdles when a client's going through divorce and separation proceedings?
Sure. So in initial divorce proceedings, there can be several hurdles that can be faced at the early stages. So it's really important to make sure that you get legal advice to ensure that we can minimise those hurdles for you and that we can address any issues as they arise. So these could be things like address. So for example, if you don't know where your spouse is living and you need to issue divorce proceedings, it could be matters relating to finances specifically. So perhaps there's a family home and you want to split the proceeds and have the property sold, or it could be that there are children matters or domestic abuse matters that you need us to look into. So it's really important we can get a holistic picture of what your concerns are and how we can best address them, not only as part of the divorce procedure, but also perhaps wider applications that we might consider making to the court to protect your interests.
Thank you. And how important is it for a client to get a financial order when going through a divorce?
We would always advise that it is important to get a financial order as part of the divorce process. Although it's a separate application that we would make, it's just to ensure that in future there can't be any comebacks in terms of any future applications that can be made, ideally so that you can have a clean break and that you'll know moving forward there won't be any complications in relation to those finances. And it is something that we can do by way of a court application if we're not able to negotiate on a settlement for you. And that, as I said, can be done as part of the divorce, but a separate proceeding.
Great, thank you. And in terms of the first step for the divorce process, obviously it can be a very emotional time. How can a client approach that with their solicitor?
Here at Adam Bernard Solicitors, we really do understand that divorce can be one of the most difficult times during your life, and we really sympathise with that. It's important, as I said, to get legal advice to ensure that we are protecting your interests in relation to the divorce process itself, as well in relation to the finances. So we also offer private funding as well as legal aid at this firm. So either way, we've got you covered.
And could waiting to make a final financial order have an effect on the settlement overall?
So we'd strictly need to speak to you to discuss the specific circumstances of your matter. But in general, we would always advise that we make an application or at least try to resolve the finances at the earliest possible opportunity. And the reason for that is that once your divorce is finalised, let's say, for example, the other party were to remarry or you wish to remarry, perhaps you want to purchase another property, move on, get a new partner. All of these things can impact on the finances, especially if there's a property that might be in your spouse's sole name or your sole name. So we would always advise that we would get you booked in for a consultation early on so that we can go through all of these issues with you together and advise on the best possible strategy and how we can help you.
Great, thank you. If a divorce is contested, what effect can that have on the outcome, if any?
So in relation to contested divorce, we do have a lot of experience in dealing with those types of matters here. It could be that perhaps the other party is seeking to contest the divorce, perhaps they don't have legal advice, maybe they're representing themselves. So it'd be important to show us a copy of any correspondence that you've received so that we can go through it and identify potential issues and ways that we can move forward. If it is that it's already been contested and the other party's represented, we'll be able to represent you anyway. So it could be that there might be a hearing listed, that the judge will need some information from us, in which case we can help you prepare for that hearing.
That's really helpful, thank you.
Thank you. So I've also got some questions for yourself. So if you wouldn't mind, we'll go through the questions together. So the first question that we've got is, conditional order versus final order in UK divorce. Why the middle stage is so stressful?
So in terms of getting a divorce in England and Wales, The final order is the order that finalises that divorce. The conditional order is the first order that's applied for, and then there is a waiting period until the clients can obtain that final order, which is really important to get because that is the final order in the divorce which confirms the divorce has gone through. The time between the conditional order and the final order can be really helpful for arranging financial matters, but it is really important that the client sees the matter through to the final order being made.
Thank you for that answer. And divorce proceedings in court versus online divorce. What clients wish they knew at the start? Have you got any insight on that for us?
The online divorce procedure is relatively new, came into force a couple of years ago. It definitely simplifies the process for the clients and makes it much easier for us to file documents with the court as well. It does mean that proceedings can go ahead much more smoothly, and it also gives the opportunity for parties who want to have an amicable divorce and apply together to be able to do that on that online system.
Thank you so much for that answer. And in relation to some of our clients that do decide to make an application, or they could be responding to an application in finances for divorce, a lot of clients want to know in the family court what actually happens in court on the day.
Sure. So before the court day, you'll be given a specific time and date to attend the court, and your solicitor or your barrister will meet you there on the day and meet with you to discuss the matter, probably about an hour before the hearing. The judge will hear the hearing at the time listed and make their order whilst in the court verbally. And then if parties are represented, those solicitors are responsible for drafting those orders and getting the written orders out to the parties, which will set up the next steps in the process.
Sure. And in terms of life after the final order, have you got any insight about common surprises clients face after divorce?
I think it's really important for clients to get further legal advice after a divorce has been processed, especially if, for example, financial proceedings were also involved. It's really important to make sure that a final order has been made in any financial proceedings, but also for the clients to consider any other aspects of their lives that the divorce might affect, such as wills or their immigration status. So it's really important that they get legal advice about all of those areas to make sure that all of their interests are protected.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for this question. So we do represent clients in contested financial proceedings as well as consent orders and negotiations. So across the full spectrum, there can be a wider range of issues that clients need support with at each stage, and it does vary on a case-by-case basis. One of the common challenges that we do get in, for example, consent order proceedings would be struggling to reach an agreement with the other party. So often we find that whilst we go into the negotiations with the view to reaching a settlement, that's not always possible. And that can be frustrating because where we don't have a fixed court timetable as part of the financial procedure, we are reliant on voluntary exchange and disclosure with the other party. So we can advise you in detail about the options when you come for your initial consultation, and perhaps we can discuss where you are with those negotiations at the moment and the procedure that we can offer to you that we think will best meet your needs. So it's really important to get advice early on surrounding the finances to ensure that we can minimise those hurdles for you. And if it is that we need to make a contested application to the court, sometimes that means greater certainty in terms of the timetable that we can offer. So, for example, the court would list dates whereby the other party will have to comply with filing certain documents that we would need in order to advise you. So again, it's really important that you do get that advice and that we do receive that disclosure to ensure that we are protecting your interests in the best way that we can.
Thank you so much. And are there any common mistakes that people make during these financial proceedings?
I would say certainly not to get advice. That can be the biggest mistake people do make. Where finances are involved, it is really important to ensure that you've got the support of a solicitor that you can trust and talk to about each issue, especially regarding finances, because there are long-term implications, not only for yourself, but also if there are any children of the marriage that you're looking to accommodate. So in terms of mistakes, I'd say definitely get legal advice. If you can, of course, it's better to get a solicitor and explore the options at the initial outset. So that could be if you are going for negotiations or if you want to make an application. And also don't feel that you have to limit yourself as to what you're saying in terms of your concerns. So it doesn't have to be solely in relation to finances. If there are any concerns relating to children or domestic abuse, sometimes it still can tie in with your financial matter as well. So the solicitor will be able to advise you specifically in relation to your circumstances when we get you booked in for that initial consultation, and we can go through all of those issues with you together to ensure that we have protected your interests in every way possible. For example, if there's a property that might be in the sole name of a spouse, perhaps you're not living there, we might need to make an additional application. And we also have other services available at the firm. We have a property department, so if you do manage to reach an agreement, or if we end up getting an order for the property to be sold, we can pass you on over to our conveyancing team who'll be happy to help.
Thank you so much, that's so helpful.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you've got any queries, please comment on the link below. Thank you.